When I first got here, we would beg anybody to speak. We would take literally anyone because things had, fallen off so badly. But then once it was all back on track, it felt really good to be able to say no. It was actually empowering for us. Like, no, it's okay. We actually have a lot of good speakers. We don't need to say yes to everyone.
Have you ever wondered how simply showing up can change your career and your community? Today's guest, Margaret Mueller, knows this better than anyone. As president and CEO of the Executive Club of Chicago, she's leading the charge in bringing business leaders together to spark innovation, collaboration, and real change. Margaret's story is a blueprint for reinvention. From earning a PhD in sociology to building and selling a successful market research firm, she's made bold, strategic moves that have shaped industries. In this conversation, she shares how she embraced uncertainty, led transformative change, and built a career rooted in connection and impact. I'm Laurette Rondinay, and I'm so excited for you to hear this one. Let's dive in.
So I'm the first generation to go to college in my family. My dad was a mechanic. My mom stayed at home. And for me, education really seemed like the ticket out. Like I did not want to live the life that I had in my childhood. There was nothing wrong with it. It was perfectly fine. But I just knew there's a lot more out there. So I really saw education as the ticket out. And I was not encouraged to go to college. In fact, I was discouraged from going.
Interesting. Dig a little into that.
I know. I think the quote was, well, you're just going to get married and have kids.
Oh, no
what's
way.
The point? Kind of thing. Yeah. So when I decided to go to college, I really went to college. I kept going and going until they told me I had to leave. So I went to undergrad, I got a master's, I went and got a PhD, I did a postdoc, and then finally
You're a lifelong learner, probably deeply.
I am a lifelong learner. But I really did think I was going to be a professor. That was the whole plan. And I was at UNC Chapel Hill and I was teaching, and it just was really slow for me. It was slower than I wanted. And I thought that's something I can always do later. So then I defected, much to the chagrin of my department. They were not thrilled with me.
What does defect mean?
Well, I went to the corporate world, which is like something that at the time it was really discouraged and not looked well upon.
Which is a shame because they have to work together.
I know. Well, and it's changed now. Now it's much more different. I think there's much more collaboration, but also we just don't have jobs for all these PhDs. There are not enough professorships, so they have to understand early on that you may be a professor or you may go do something else, and everyone has to be on board with that. At the time, it was not like that. So I went into market research and customer insights and brand strategy. So I had a big data analytics background and understanding people and their attitudes and motivations and their behaviors and why they do what they do. And so instead of doing it for social problems, I was doing it for client issues and helping build brands, and it was great.
What are some of the brands you touched?
Oh my gosh, everything. We did a lot in retail and food. So, Albertsons and Kroger, a lot of the big grocery stores. We did the Valspar paint company was a big one. And then I started a healthcare company when I was there. So we worked for all the big pharmaceutical companies, Genentech, AbbVie, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, all of them. And that was the company I founded because I realized that there was a need to do this in the healthcare and pharmaceutical space, and we were particularly good at it. And then we sold that company, and then I stayed on with the new owner, and I decided I really wanted to go do my own thing again. And so the whole plan was on day 366, I was starting my own consultancy. And 2 weeks into my year off, I got called by a recruiter for this role, which was not on my bingo card, nothing I was considering. But when you have a year off on a non-compete, you really can't do anything. So I thought, I'll go downtown and have coffee.
What a gift, though, to have that time.
Yes.
What did you do with that year off?
It was a huge gift. I also had twin boys who were 3 at the time. And so it was nice
nice to connect, but you weren't off by any stretch.
And to stop travel, because I was traveling so much internationally and my clients were on the coasts. So it was nice to be home. So what I did is I worked out every day. I read books. I met friends for lunch. I only had 5.5 months off after all that. I didn't really get the full year because I took this job. But I've been working nonstop since I was 15. So that was the first 5.5 months I've taken in 35 years.
Yeah. And I've had maternity leaves off. It's probably the longest I've had off too. And
which is also not off.
It's not off.
No.
But I even found that hard to find rhythm. That's why I'm curious of what you would do with time off, because
I doubled down on health and wellness.
That's good.
Because I didn't have that in my life, especially with little ones. And so I thought I'm going to use this as a huge reset.
That's nice.
So then I got called about this role, and I really was not interested in it, but I thought I'll talk to anyone. It's always good to talk to people. And then the more I got into it, I thought this is really cool. Like I can always go hang my shingle, but the opportunity to have this kind of impact in the city that I love. I didn't know Chicago that well.
So the role was
The Executives Club of Chicago role. And even though I've been born and raised and lived in Chicago most of my life, except the 5 years I spent at Chapel Hill in grad school, I wasn't that well connected to the city. And so the idea to be able to, dig in and do something transformative.
If you had not taken the current role that you're in now and you were thinking of starting another business, what would it have been?
It would have been basically the same company, but doing it for myself and the vision that I had. So, the person who bought us, they had a different vision of where they wanted to take the company. And I was mostly on board with it, but then it started diverging. And that's when I decided that I wanted to leave because I had my own ideas of how I thought we should be serving our clients and what the industry needed. So I was going to take the year because I had a non-compete and then go do that at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that would be really hard in selling a business to have it. It's your baby.
It is. I'm sure you've had lots of friends and colleagues given your industry. I mean, you do need to let it go, and it's hard to watch.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really painful to watch.
Yeah, especially because he killed my brand. That was the saddest. I loved the brand. I loved everything about it, and it doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, that is so sad. If you're enjoying this conversation, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us to reach more viewers and to get amazing guests like Margaret. With that, let's move on to your role now. So describe what your main responsibility is and how that happened. And I'd love you to dig into that too.
Yes, and I really thought I was just going to sit out the non-compete, honestly. I thought, oh, this is kind of a really cool way to sit out a non-compete. I'll come in, I'll do some transformation, and then go start my company. So that's what I thought I would do. And my board chair was very visionary. She was the CEO of an ad agency. And so a typical profile for someone in my role is usually a semi-retired, prominent figure in the business community who doesn't quite want to retire. They want to use this last chapter to do something civic and give back. And they tend to do these kinds of roles and then roll into board work and retirement after that. And my board chair said, we don't need that. We actually need someone who understands brand transformation, because I had to take this 110-year-old legacy organization who had kind of lost its way and revision it and reposition it for the future. And it was really fun. And there was actually a lot more to do than I thought there was. I feel like in many ways it was like a startup. What I got them to do, and because the board was so supportive and there were no sacred cows, we just dismantled everything and said, let's forget about everything we've done for the last 110 years.
And what year are we in now when this happened?
2019. And, guess what's
COVID.
coming for an in-person convening organization? A global pandemic.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Tough year to start.
Yeah. And so I was able to just say, forget about everything we've done. If we were to start this organization today to serve the needs of today's executives, what would we build? What would it look like? What type of folks do we need on the leadership team? What would be our products and offerings? What would be our brand? And so we did build on what we had. It's not like we threw everything out, but we had this great opportunity to start from scratch. And there also were hardly any staff. I have a staff of 17. I had 8 staff when I got there. No leadership team. I had like an accountant, an assistant, a couple of events people. Like the whole leadership team had left. And so I also didn't even inherit an org chart.
And they left before COVID then. They left.
Yeah. I think the club was just in a lot of transition. That's all. It was just a time of transition. And these things in the moment, it's hard to see them as a gift, but it really was a gift. If I had come in
blank slate,
right, to something very established, and now I have to drive complete change with a full team and a way of doing things, that's harder to do. So it helps when it's a bit of a little crisis and you can actually do everything that you want to do. We have a couple of peer organizations that in some ways were being seen as competitive. And coming from the business world, I was looking at this saying, well, this is silly. Like if this was for profit, there would be some consolidation and mergers. It doesn't make any sense to have all of these organizations stepping on each other's toes.
Especially non-for-profit, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but that was the situation. And I was told by someone that we were second tier. And that's what really motivated me. I'm like, well, that kind of sucks. I'm not interested in being a CEO of a second tier organization. To like the Economic Club, Commercial Club, things like YPO, and I was a member of all of those, and I didn't really feel that way. And I thought, well, I don't really want to be the CEO of a second tier organization. I want to understand why. Let's dig into it and let's flip this conversation.
So you're competing with people's time is what you're
Yes.
competing with. Am I
Right.
going to pick this horse or that horse?
Right.
Gotcha.
And so the world was seen as a pyramid. So the Executives Club of Chicago was seen as the entry point. And then as you move up the ladder, sometimes you shed the rung below and sometimes you keep it. So then you get into the Economic Club. Well, I may be a member of both. Then I get into the Commercial Club. Well, maybe I'll be a member of all three, or maybe I'll drop it at this time. And so what I was realizing is that was so much overlap, so competitive, and it was all just about the individual. And we also had an enterprise membership model where you could have your company join, and that's where I realized that was going to be our big differentiator. And so we leaned in very heavily into the enterprise model because I wanted to be the and, not the or. So then when someone would say, I feel like I've kind of graduated out, I have these other things, we say, great. Now you've graduated into an enterprise membership because that's all just about you and you being in those rooms because it's good for you. But what are you doing for your team? What are you doing for your leadership team? What are you doing for your organization? What are you doing for all of your employees?
Succession planning.
Right. And then it became a very easy sell. And I also wanted to flip this conversation of hierarchy into one of concentric circles and really leaned into our inclusivity. So all the other organizations were about exclusivity. And we said, okay, we're going to go in the other direction. We're all going to be about inclusivity and expansiveness. So now it's about concentric circles. We are for everyone. And then you get more exclusive and more closed off the closer in you get. But, inclusivity and expansiveness is also really important.
It's huge.
Today. So that was transformational.
And making people feel welcome.
Yes.
And not intimidated.
Yes.
But,
we get told
these
this all the time.
executives are scaring me,
Right. We get told all the time that our events are so welcoming, so inclusive. And we have Fortune 500 CEOs in the room with VPs and senior managers and everyone. And so it's a really beautiful thing. There is no place else where everybody comes together to connect, learn, and grow. And we do need places that are exclusive, for lack of a better word, right? Like there are times you want to hang out with food industry executives. There are times you want to hang out with other female C-suite executives.
Exactly. Because you have different things that you're going through that someone else might not understand. But
right.
Yeah.
So there are places for all of that. I just didn't see why we needed multiple organizations doing those things. And once we got clear on this, we grew tremendously. So we've basically doubled in 3 years, doubled our membership, doubled our board, doubled our cash reserves. That's one of the big metrics for a nonprofit. We did an acquisition. I built the leadership team. We redid our bylaws, moved our offices, rebranded. I mean, all of it. It's been great.
Wow. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
In 3 years. That's...
Yeah. And so now it's been 5, but that pretty much all got done in 3. So first I righted the ship and then COVID. And we were an in-person convening organization. I mean, everyone freaked out. And I freaked out.
Yeah. And did you guys do you must have done some virtual, or what was your COVID look like?
We were a first mover there, and that was a big part of our success. So most people, I think, was it the 13th? I think it was Friday the 13th. Most people left their offices. On that Monday, we did a virtual event with the head of the Illinois Department of Public Health, with the head of the Chicago office for PwC, and with an economist on what's going on. Like, what are you doing with your offices? What's going on? We didn't know anything, you're right?
None of us did.
About masking or how all this worked. And then we did another one of those a week later because the world changed again. And so freaked out for about 48 hours and then quickly realized that we just needed to lean into our purpose. And I think speaking of food, there are a lot of parallels with the restaurant industry. The restaurants who were so constrained by this idea of, well, we need to bring people into our restaurant to eat food, they struggled. Their doors closed. Restaurants who realized our purpose isn't to bring people into our restaurant. Our purpose is to create community and connection through food. We can do that in other ways. We're going to now bring it to them. So think about like Stephanie Izzard did an amazing job, right, with her live cooking demos and at-home meal kits and all sorts of things. There are lots of restaurateurs who did a good job. That's what we did too.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's like a pause moment of lean into our purpose.
Yes.
Absolutely love that statement. And that restaurants aren't about food. Like, that's just huge. Right. It really is. I mean, you think of the ambiance and of the ones you pick, and depending on the mood you're in, and it's like the experience and the community of it all. So So that's very true. And restaurants were critical. And I remember that time too of being very supportive of restaurants. And God knows I don't love to cook, so
Yeah.
naturally I was supportive of restaurants. But yeah, that's a good analogy, very similar. So what was your purpose then? You felt like you leaning into your purpose of educating.
Our purpose is to connect and grow Chicagoland's business community. And we realize they need us more than ever. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone's struggling. No one knows what to do. So we did a virtual program every single day, Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m., 8 to 9 every day. And we had an executive in residence who was an expert on something. And you came on, it was an open Zoom, and it was kind of like having office hours. We had an executive coach about how to talk to your teams. We had bankers on how to apply for PPP loans. We had labor attorneys. So we had people who logged in, honestly, every morning at 8 o'clock. Because they're like, I got to drink my coffee and eat my breakfast. I might as well learn something while I'm here. And we also made the potentially risky decision to make everything available for free to everyone, regardless of whether or not you're a member. Because again, our purpose was to serve the business community. At that moment, Chicago needed us. I kind of didn't care if you were a member or not. Like, you needed our help because you're still part of the community. And instead of devaluing the membership fee, because that was the risk that we took, it ended up becoming a sampling strategy. So people were flocking to us in a way that we'd never had before, and they were experiencing us for the first time. For many of them, like, what's this executives club? My friend told me I should log on to this thing. And they're like, this is incredible. How do I become a member? So during a time where everything was free, people were buying memberships because they wanted to be part of it. And so that was really great for us too, because we're small. We don't have a big marketing budget. And so this was a way for us to get more exposure, have more of those experiences, have sampling before people bought.
Do you continue to do that?
No, because we did need to get back to, well, why be a member? I mean, there was going to be a tipping point where I think at some point, you can't keep giving everything away for free. But we have maintained a portion of virtual programs because people want them. And we have done a few things for free for everyone. So one thing we did, and Tom Ricketts is on my board, and he was incredibly generous, and the Cubs organization, we did Chicago's biggest business happy hour. In Wrigley Field, we had 1,300 people. Wow. And everyone could come for free. And
that's brilliant.
It was really good. And we had the CEO of Anheuser-Busch, who's the big beer that you have in Wrigley. And there was an interview with him on the dugout. So everyone was in the stands watching the interview, and then they all got to come on the field. And again, the Cubs paid for all of this. Tom was incredibly generous, but it was a great way to just bring 1,300 business folks.
That's beautiful. And so different and special, you can't.
So we're still trying to find ways to do that intentionally in pockets.
And I think it's good for the listeners to understand how your board is made up, because that was news to me when I was just chatting with you about that. So
yeah, our board has also doubled during this time, because once we got really clear on our purpose, it became a pretty easy yes to serve on the board. Otherwise, it was like, I'm on so many boards. Everyone's asking me to be on their board. Like, why your board?
And it's not light work to be on a board. Different boards are different degrees of heaviness of what you're carrying. But I think, you can't just flippantly say yes. You have to really have passion about it.
Right. And so to be on our board, if you're a Chicago headquartered company, you have to be the CEO or president. And then if you're not headquartered in Chicago, you have to be the head of market. So the highest ranking person in the market. So you're, the CEO of Chicago in that regard. And then we have an advisory board where it is basically the direct reports to the members on the board. So it's other C-suite as well as presidents and CEOs of smaller organizations.
Okay.
And the glue that hangs the board together, the reason they're all on the board is because they all care deeply about the future of the Chicago business community because of our mission and what we're doing. And because we're really bringing up the next generation and connecting them with the current generation of leaders and creating all of that connectivity, everyone wants that.
Yeah, and I love that they all have, their heart in Chicago. I think. Do you feel like there's any industry that you lean more into, such as food, or is it manufacturing, or is there anything that shines brighter? Or
food, because there's so many companies in Chicago, so there's just more pool to choose from. We do have a lot of professional and financial services, I think because it's more in their DNA to do things like this. I think people who tend to work like in manufacturers or things, they don't always understand why they need to get out there and connect with other executives. They're so focused on their specialization. They think more about, like, I think career development versus leadership development, and there is a distinction. And so working with the HR leaders of these organizations has been really important for them to say, no, we need to get our people out there. They don't know that they need to, but they need to.
And I'm thinking they might lean to like the manufacturing associations and things like that, where they're getting different, value from that.
Right. But there's also great value to get outside of your industry and sector
I agree.
and into the Chicago business community and meet other folks. So we have a lot of leadership development and mentoring programs too, which is also what makes us distinct.
Your programming, and I don't know it like intimately well, but National Geographic was it 2 weeks ago, and I didn't get to go. We were in an offsite, but
She was so good.
oh, I really wanted to go to that. So it's fun to eyeball what you have coming up. And I know we just became an enterprise member.
You did
so
just become
yay.
an enterprise member. Yes. Thank you very much. We do have phenomenal programming. It is challenging because we need to serve the entire business community.
Absolutely.
So think about all the industries in Chicago. Chicago's such a diverse economy, all of the functions. So in the next 4 weeks, here's what we have: an ESG summit, a fintech summit, a talent outlook, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, and then last week, the CEO of National Geographic. I mean, those are all so different.
It's like bipolar. That must
Yeah.
make you crazy.
Because we need to do things for everybody.
Yes. You have to be all over, but it allows you to be really creative on what your content is. And I think sometimes those most creative ones are the best. Like I'm thinking of sometimes hearing speakers coming from sports, and talking about the mental state of, competition in sports, or Marines coming in and talking. Like that's where you get a lot of takeaways. So
Oh, I know. Oftentimes it's the least known CEOs that are the best.
really,
And those are our lowest turnout because they don't have the big name recognition, right? So people don't see it and say, oh, I got to hear this person. They look at it and say, I don't know who that is.
that's huge advice for the listeners, to not overlook someone that you might not have heard of or a company that you might not have heard of, because there's a diamond there. I love that.
Yes. And we only bring in exceptional people. Like we heavily vet them. There aren't any duds. So if we're bringing them in, there's a good reason. I think we should do a better job of promoting it sometimes. Like maybe we need to do some promotional videos. Here is why we invited this CEO. Here's why you need to come hear from them. So
That's a
we're gonna
great
work on
idea.
that.
Or even, videos are such a thing now. Maybe even just a little snippet of that speaker or something, like a little sneak peek or preview.
Yeah. And we've turned some really big name CEOs down because
How in the world do you do that?
I know, because either we didn't feel like it was aligned with our values or they were being pitched to us by a comms team. And you can tell this was a very heavily managed comms roadshow. Not interested.
Is it hard to say that? Is it hard to say the no? Or do you just say, oh, it doesn't fit our values? Doesn't fit our values. That doesn't feel hard to say. I think I could. But if it's like a big name, I don't know, like it's like, how is that going to do for the executive club? Like,
I know. Well, when I first got here, we would beg anybody to speak. We would take literally anyone because things had, fallen off so badly. But then once it was all back on track, it felt really good to be able to say no. It was actually empowering for us. Like, no, it's okay. We actually have a lot of good speakers. We don't need to say yes to everyone.
It just increased your value. Right. Talk a little bit about your podcast too.
Mm-hmm. So we started the podcast in the pandemic, again, just trying to find more ways to meet people where they are. And it was really easy to get CEOs in the pandemic, surprisingly, because they could do it from anywhere. And everyone was
Right.
kind of stuck at home. So it's like, oh, great. I have an audience of several hundred C-suite executives in Chicago, and all I have to do is log on and talk for 45 minutes. Easy. I can do that. Versus what they used to have to do before, fly on a plane, right, come to Chicago, probably spend the night. It was a big ordeal. So we got some really great speakers, and that also created some momentum for us too. And so the podcast is a combination of new content as well as repurposing the recordings of the CEOs that we have. So like National Geographic, perfect example, that will get released on the podcast probably in a few weeks. And it's a Chicago CEO podcast. Although, like I said, we do repurpose CEOs who come in from out of town. But if you get invited to be on just the podcast, it's a Chicago CEO. And the hallmark of it is, kind of similar to this. You really get to know them as a person. And that's what even CEOs on my board say that they love listening to it, because they know these other CEOs. They've been in rooms with them, but they don't actually know them.
Know the story. I think that's so true. It's really a way to, I love it. I love the conversations and learning people's stories and shining a light on their purpose and what motivates them. And
right. It's not about their business strategy. It's about them as people. And that's really what people love.
So on that note, I'd love you to kind of talk about when you got this job, and what was the competition like for this position. And
I don't know what the competition is like, but I do know I was not the candidate. I mean, I really walked in thinking there's no way I'm getting this job. I mean, I'm just not the profile. I'm not who they've ever had.
And what would the profile have looked like?
It would have been a well-known CEO or business figure in Chicago, someone who kind of was established, a big CEO, or had done things and was very civically engaged already. So the more I got into it, I thought, if this is offered to me, I really need to take it. I can always go start my consultancy later. That's not going anywhere, but this doesn't come around all that often.
So what's a typical day look like for you?
Oh my gosh, it is literally the never day twice. It's like the TJ Maxx of jobs.
Which is nice. I mean, I would like that. So variety.
And I'm someone who thrives on variety. I need variety in my life. And I am a lifelong learner and constantly curious. And so it's great. It gets to check all those boxes for me. I'm also really big at making connections between insights and ideas and strategies and solutions, and also people, and that's also part of my job. And I like being out there with people, and that's a big part of my job. So sometimes I tell my kids my job is to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a living, because there are some days where literally that's what I do. Like, I have a breakfast meeting, I have a lunch meeting, I have drinks meeting, and then I have a dinner meeting or an event. So some days
we're going out to dinner.
Yeah. Some days I'm just eating my way through Chicago. And then some days I'm at my desk.
What's your favorite restaurant?
Oh, that is so hard to answer.
You've probably hit a lot of them.
I know. I have hit a lot. So I think my favorite restaurants are the ones I actually don't go to for work.
Okay.
A lot of stuff on Randolph Street we really don't necessarily go to for work. So I love the whole Girl and the Goat family. I love everything she's done. Yeah, all three of the brands, all of them. I do love all of the one-off hospitality restaurants too. I think they're all fantastic. Paul Kahn and Avec and all of that. I'm just emerging from my cocoon, honestly, for interesting restaurants. I tend to, because I have little kids, so we're just not going out as much. But now we're starting.
How old are the twins?
They're 9, and I just got a standing sitter every Friday night. We started 3 weeks ago. So we're just reemerging, and we're going to go to all the restaurants we haven't gone to in the last 10 years because we've been stuck at home with kids. So I'm going to Elska next week. I've never been there yet. Very excited about it. But yeah, I think my business dinners are pretty, traditional.
So with this job, back to you talking about, that when they were 3, do you have to travel much or do you get to stay?
No.
That's beautiful.
Chicago is in the name.
Right.
It's Executives Club
Just wonder,
Chicago.
I mean, the only thing I could imagine is, maybe meeting other Executive Club city leaders.
So there's nothing like it anywhere in the country.
I did not know that.
Nowhere. Nothing. And we have members who get relocated to other cities all the time and say, will you please open a chapter? I don't have a way to connect with the business community here. There's nothing like it.
Okay, well.
It's really quite special.
Do you see that as a future of the Executive Club?
We've explored it as a board. I think we're still determining, everyone understands why it's important, figuring out is it ours to do, because we're so focused on building the Chicago community and creating more connectivity here. Well, also booking the speakers. This is what I'm concerned about. So you think about, we have Satya Nadella coming next week. Now, what if I had 5 different chapters? Houston, Atlanta, LA, New York, Chicago. Well, where does he go? He's only going to go to one. So now I'm actually diluting things. I can't book all these amazing speakers across multiple cities. It's
don't do it.
Happen.
Keep it here. Let's just keep it special.
Right?
That's a marketing thing right there that I did not know that this is the only one like this. So
I know. Well, we're partnering a lot with World Business Chicago now. We always have had a close relationship, and it is a big part of why Chicago. I mean, they do talk about this when they pitch companies on why they should move their headquarters here or expand to Chicago. Our civic landscape here is unlike anywhere else in the country and probably the world. And that's really important for some people.
That is very important. And really encouraging listeners to tap into that, because sometimes you don't even know where that is. We were talking, it's been Chicago Day. So yeah, like you don't even know what's out there and what's available and how accessible and welcoming and open a lot of the civic stuff is.
It really is. It is not elitist or, I mean, we say exclusive. That is a loaded term, but it's just not like that.
I was saying to Dan, like getting intimidated by not feeling like can talk politics or, like just I don't want to put my foot in my mouth or not know something. And it seems like more educational based, a lot of our civic stuff, and it's not, and bipartisan. I mean, I know there's a lot of not that, but I think there's a lot of places you can find that.
Yeah, we're absolutely bipartisan. We don't take a stand on anything. We don't make any political statements. All are welcome.
So do you have any advice for women and being CEOs and raising children? Because we kind of didn't finish that thought there, but I feel like you might have some wise words of wisdom.
I read this book on curating your life, and it really stuck with me, and I use it now. And I was just talking about it today. Like, I think my curation is off. It's not quite in alignment with my values. So, like in a museum, there's the main exhibit, right? So we'll just say like Impressionism, right? And this is where all the Monet paintings and other things are gonna go. Oh, but there's also some sculptures that are in the side exhibit, and there's some charcoal drawings over here, and maybe we have some jewelry from the area. And then there's a bunch of stuff that's in storage right now. And then you swap out the exhibit. Well, now we're gonna do a, sculpture exhibit. Now this is the main, and we have some things in the side rooms, and some things are, in storage. And so that's how I've been thinking about my life at seasons and different points in time. There are some things that are just your main exhibit, and you're going to choose to just be mediocre at some other things. They're in the side rooms, you're dabbling, and some stuff is just not happening right now. It's in storage, but it will come out. Those artifacts do come out in the next exhibit. And that's how I've been thinking about it. And so I think I'm in this moment right now. You're catching me at such a good time, because I was texting my friend this morning. I need to change my exhibit. I'm in a transition point right now. And so I've been so heavy on work. I've been excellent at work, and I've been adequate at friends and family. And I would like to put friends and family as the main exhibit for a little while. And I can still be good at work, but I don't have to just pour everything.
Well, I think it also comes down to you describing that you have created your team. And it sounds like your team is at a place you can trust them. Yeah. So that really helps with getting that balance back, I'm sure. But while you were developing that team, you had to just dump everything into work because you were probably the main show.
Right, exactly. So there's just seasons to everything. And to really accept being mediocre at some things, knowing it's a phase, that was very liberating for me. Like, there are periods of my time I just didn't exercise at all. Like, I'm just not doing it right now. I'm prioritizing sleep. It'll come back. I'll do it later. It's just not right now.
Because sleep is very important.
Right. And so making those choices and being intentional, I'm also really good at not trying to be two places at once. I failed at that miserably early in my job because I was feeling so guilty, because my job requires me to be at a lot of evening events. So I'd be at these events. I'd be checking in at home constantly. I'd be looking at the kids on the camera, on the Nest Cam, texting my husband, how's it going? That's not helpful. It's not helpful for anybody. He doesn't need me doing that. It doesn't matter to them, and it's ruining my experience.
That's great advice.
So now, and he has even been the one to say that to me, when you're out, just be out. And if you're going to miss bedtime, stay out as late as you want. It doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
So make
Bedtime's
the most
a pain
of
in the
it.
ass. You might
as well make the most of it. And then so same thing at home. If I'm home, I'm home. Once in a while I have to do something, but that
do you
helped me a
literally
lot.
Put your phone down? Do you have any?
My kids call me out on it, so yes.
Do that. That's good.
And I'm really trying to be a good role model for them. They don't have phones yet or anything, but I'm being very conscious of the modeling of the behavior and wanting to model what I would like them to do with digital technology when it's time. So I'm behaving differently than I might if no one was looking.
I think that's great advice, being in the moment, and it's easier said than done. And you have to intentionally be in the moment. Even in these moments, and I know you get it with we were just talking earlier of changing. It's like the transition of different conversations. And you have to kind of switch your brain and be where you are. So I like that. So when do kids get phones these days? Because mine are all older, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We are going to hang out till high school. We're going to be those parents.
That would be
Our
fantastic.
kids may hate us. We'll see how it goes.
The only hard part I found was like sports and needing to get a hold of them. And I'm sure there's other ways to do this.
Well, so they have Fitbit watches. You can only text whoever you have both agreed to. So we have to approve the person, and then our kid has to agree connecting with them, and they have to agree connecting with our kid. So it's like a 3-way authentication. So there's only like 4 people that they can talk to. That's the only 4 people they need to talk to. So you can text and you can call through your watch.
Nice. Oh, there you go.
I know. But I was listening to this great podcast with Scott Galloway. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a marketing professor and entrepreneur, and he made such a good point that this really needs to be society making a decision. It is too much pressure to put it on parents because
the other friends have it.
Right. So now who knows, I may be creating a whole secondary set of problems that now they're isolated and depressed because they're not where their friends, I don't know.
Yes, I do know.
So it's just too hard to put it on parents and to put it on schools.
You hate to say like they make it a law that you have to, like it's driving a car. You have to be at least 15 before you can get a phone.
I think we should make it a law because then everyone is on the same page and you don't have to worry about being the one left out. And when you talk to teenagers, this is a broad generalization, but a lot of them, they don't like social media either. They are saying, I don't want this, but I have to. Like, please just get rid of it. I'd be a lot happier.
Right.
So even they are telling us that this is not a positive experience for them, but they feel like they have to.
And I feel like you have to pick a horse. And it's even for adults, for us, it's Facebook stresses me out. Either you're in or you're
everything.
out.
I finally got rid of everything. I got off Facebook during a heavily politically charged time, and then I got off Instagram during a heavily politically charged time, and now I just have LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's different.
LinkedIn is different. LinkedIn is...
And I've never been on TikTok or anything like that.
Me neither. I'm on Instagram because I kind of have to be. But Facebook, I feel like if you're in and then you don't say happy birthday to somebody, it's best to just be off and so they don't expect it.
I had this moment where it was like, step away from the keyboard. I was responding in all caps to someone I didn't even know.
Oh, yes.
Who had commented. And I was like, Margaret Mueller, what are you doing? Like, step away from the computer and you need to shut this down now. And then that was it. That was the last... And I deleted everything. It took me several weeks to delete everything because I had long history of stuff on there and then shut it down. Otherwise, it's always there.
Oh, wow.
You don't have to, but...
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
But yeah, it was just this moment of reckoning. Like, what are you doing? Why are you responding in all caps to someone you don't even know?
What are some of your favorite podcasts to listen to? Because you mentioned...
Yes, so I love this one with Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway, which is Pivot. So that's the one I'm interested in listening to a lot. Hard Fork by the New York Times. It is a tech and AI podcast, and it makes it so accessible. So if you really want to try to understand what's going on...
In AI,
Yes, I love it. It's by the New York Times. They're very, very funny. I did really like Wiser Than Me by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She interviews women who are older than her.
My sister literally texted me, and who was it? She's just texted me one of those that she was absolutely loving.
Jane Fonda.
That was the
really
first one.
Yeah.
That was hysterical. That was really good.
good.
Is she ending it? Are you saying is she ending it? Or?
I've stopped listening just because I'm just getting busy, but I need to go back and dip into that. I really like the Slate Political Gabfest. I think that is great for politics. And then I really like Tara Brach. She's more of like a spiritual...
Cool. All right, the Slate one. I cannot watch news.
Yeah.
It just stresses me out. Would that be one to kind of get like a good...
Yes, they release it once a week on Fridays, and they discuss everything that happened over the week, and it's an hour. And it's Emily Bazelon. She's great. She's a reporter for the New York Times. And then there's a guy he's been on like Face the Nation, CBS. He's sort of more of a celebrity. And then there's the guy who was the editor-in-chief, I think, for Slate. And then he's done some stuff. And they're really well educated. It's pretty balanced. And it
Balanced
just
is what
gets
I'm
you
looking
up
for.
to
I love
speed
that.
on everything that's happened.
I need to add that to my list.
Yeah.
That would help with my feeling
And
ignorant.
she's a constitutional law expert. And so she goes into stuff that's happening at the Supreme Court that I have no idea. And there's so many
Exactly.
things being brought up to the Supreme Court every week that affect our lives that we have no idea. You know, we're so concerned about like certain elections, but there's a lot of other stuff that happens.
It's almost like shiny objects, and then we
I
don't
know.
know what the.
And so she will bring to like, hey, here's a case that's being brought up in front of the Supreme Court this week. Here's why it matters. Here's what you should know about it. And it's not that there's anything we can do about it. The Supreme Court's going to do what they do, but just to be educated on it, I find that really helpful.
That's good. I love Smartless is really funny.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's a good light one, and
I love Smartless. I can't believe I forgot to mention that.
everyone
love
loves
them
Smartless. Those
so
guys have
much.
done great.
Yes. They're going to have Tim Walz on it next week.
Oh, that'll be good. So, what is the legacy that you would like to leave behind?
The thing that I think I'm great at, that I have figured out, and what I would like to continue to do with my life is maximizing the potential of possibility. Lots of things that have potential, but they need someone to come in and see it and make it a reality. I feel like I'm the other version of what the HGTV folks do. You know, they come in and they can see what's possible in this home that none of us I can see. Maybe you can see. You clearly have great taste.
That's a great
But, like, I can't
analogy.
see. So they come in and they're like, oh my gosh, we can open this up. We can make this. And then it's this gorgeous home and none of us could see it. And I feel like I do that with people and with organizations and with social issues and all of those things, the non-designer type things. I've always been the person that's identified like the misfit in the organization or someone who's going to be let go, and I see potential in them. I'm like, I'll take them, put them on my team, and then they become a superstar. Just like the Executives Club, right? Like, I don't know, it's, you know, maybe it's just finally time. It's been 110 years, maybe we don't need it anymore. No, we do. It has great potential. Like, let me get in there, I can do this. And that's what I've done, I think, throughout my career, and that's how I'd like to focus my next chapter as well, is work with organizations, founders, companies who know that they have something of potential, but they don't know how to really bring it to life and maximize it, and I can help them do that. And so working with people that I really believe in, whose missions I believe in, to realize the potential that they have.
What do you see next for the Executive Club?
We are going to do even more on leadership development and mentoring. We've been told time again how important that is and how much the organizations need us to do that. So we just did a strategic plan. That's going to be a big part of it. And then just continue to expand the kinds of programming that we do. Because we get pitched several times a week. And right now we don't have the bandwidth to do it all. I think as we grow and are able to add more people, we can. I mean, there's no reason that we can't be doing multiple programs. So I think just bigger,
more programming, more
and leadership development
and
mentorship
leadership. Yeah, that's great.
across the career life cycle. So we have little things at different stages, but we want to have the full suite of the career life cycle covered.
Did you have a mentor that you felt like was just stuck out to you so much, or
I had a lot of what not to do,
did you? That's important too.
which is also good mentorship.
It
But I
is.
really didn't have a mentor, and I made a lot of bad choices along the way, like things that I just didn't know better, right? My dad was a mechanic. I didn't go to business school. Like with my last company, I didn't know how to structure equity. I mean, just all these things that in hindsight, I wish I would have known. So that's another advice that I always give, especially to women, but to anyone. Like, you really need to build your tribe and your team of whatever you want to call them, your kitchen cabinet, your advisors, whatever it is, because I didn't have that. And I had a lot of like men telling me what to do. And this was before mansplaining was a word. I actually don't like that word at all. But it was more just patronizing. Look, little lady, you don't know what you're doing. This is what you need to do. And I hated the advice. And it actually was good advice, but I kind of rejected it because I didn't like how it was being delivered and I didn't like how they were talking to me. But I feel like if it was someone I knew and trusted telling me the same thing, I would have listened. And so surrounding yourself with people that you know and trust
and respect.
and respect, who you know have your best interests at heart, who are also smarter than you in things, and go
Right.
to them. So it took me a while to develop that. I didn't have it. And now I do. So now I have all sorts of people I can go to when I'm struggling with a decision, and I trust them.
That probably will give you or has given you passion in this next programming and having leadership and mentorship development because you can tap into, I needed that. Yeah. My dad used to have a saying of, you're only as strong as like the professionals around you. And yeah, they have to be ones that are rooting for you and that you respect and trust. Yeah. And how do you feel about that with, I think with women, as you were saying that, like, you know, the importance of us rooting for each other and celebrating.
Yes. Did you see this hype woman movement from Jamie Lee Curtis? Okay, so when Jamie Lee Curtis, when her co-star won the Oscar for supporting actress, and there's a picture of Jamie Lee Curtis, she's like, yes! And
I remember that, yes.
It got posted on LinkedIn by this woman who said, this is a hype woman. We all need to be hype women. And it went massively viral. Jamie Lee Curtis actually met her. She did something with her live, and hype woman became this like hashtag that was going around. And so being hype woman.
I love that. That's cool.
And that's why, so I'll just get back to the Executives Club a little bit, why we need organizations like this. Because where else are you going to go to meet these people? Because for these other organizations, you've already made it. And they are important. Like, I'm glad that we have them when we need them. I'm not saying that they're not important, but people have already made it once they've gotten into them. So how are we connecting those people with the next generation and bringing them along so that one day they will also be invited to be in those rooms? And so that's why I think these types of organizations, and you need women and men. You need cross-industry. Yes, you also need places where you're just going to meet other women. And you need places where you're just going to meet other people.
And men need places where it's just men.
Yeah. But we also need to come together because that's where change happens. This is why the diversity of teams matters so much. We know that the more challenging the problem to solve, the more diverse the team you need to solve it. We need all of this. So all of them, again, I want to be the and, not the or. And so once we got clear on that, everything fell into place.
Beautiful. So where can our listeners find you? We know they can't find you on Facebook.
No. We were up there for a little bit and we were just like, we have to be all in on a Facebook strategy or just stop.
Facebook
and so we just
not,
stopped. Not the place.
Not
LinkedIn is definitely where we are.
Place.
It's just executivesclub.org. If you Google us, even if you mistype it, you will definitely find us. We have a strong presence online. We have a YouTube channel where you can go see all of the past interviews with CEOs. There have been some great ones and other programs. Our podcast is the Executives Exchange. You can find it anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And so there's lots of ways that you can sample us, podcast, YouTube videos, and you can also come to an event. And many of them are open to the public because we're here to serve everybody and all are welcome.
Thank you so much, Margaret, for being here. I really appreciated it. And it's been a great conversation. I can't wait to keep it going.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
My pleasure. Margaret showed us how bringing the right people together can truly transform not just an organization, but an entire city. She reminds us that meaningful change starts when we step into the right rooms and lean into our purpose. If you want to learn more about Margaret's work, connect with her on LinkedIn. And if today's conversation inspired you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories on owning your legacy.